Hey, Address Teen Stress. I'm Abba Shrestha, and welcome back to our Beyond the Brain series, where we interview health professionals and experts about mental health in order to get a deeper insight of different aspects of stress and mental well-being. Today, I'm here with mental health and ADHD advocate Varsha. Varsha, can you please start off by telling me a little bit about yourself?
Hi, nice to meet you first. So I am 30 years old. I got diagnosed with ADHD two to 3 years ago, I guess. And I'm originally from India. I was born and raised there, and then I came to the US to do my master's in 2016, and then I've been here ever since. So ADHD happened. It was like 2 days before my wedding, and that's when I like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Is how this aligns with how I was like in when I was in my teens and how school was like. And right now I'm like completely I've made peace with the accepting part of how the struggles made sense as well. So I think that's a little snap about me.
So, like you said, although your expertise is kind of like in that biotechnology category, it's where you had your bachelor's in food science, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. So, what intrigued me about you was your Instagram page that I stumbled upon. I thought it was very, very cool about your how you're educating others about ADHD. So, what was the process, or why did you begin that page?
So once I got diagnosed, I actually didn't give it a thought at all. I felt like, oh, what's ADHD? It's just another label. And I am not coming from a, Indian perspective. I've not been raised um, in a way that everything goes under the rug and we just don't talk about mental health. So it takes a while for you to come to terms with why this is important. First, to start with mental health, and then comes another layer of ADHD. So I didn't deal with it for a year. I felt like I have already a lot on my plate going on, and I this is the last thing I want to do. But then after a year, I started to like dig in and do a lot of reading, listen to a lot of podcasts, like videos. There are like so many resources available in the US and majority part of the Western countries, but not any in India. So um and then that's when it helped me a lot. Like it helped me to cope with the skills and the tools that I learned during my journey as well. I also took ADHD coaching from a mental health coach right in the US. So I had all that privilege to do, and I felt like I should speak up for my country. This is not about like country specific, but I felt like the place where there is a lack of something, there should be someone like a plus one to that. And that's when I started ADHD Petai. And I felt like, people who are like me back in India are still going through all of this. And uh, they need to, have a voice to hear and feel validated. So that was my main goal. And that's when I started ADHD Petai.
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. So, can you share your perspective on what you think today's current state of teen mental health and stress is like on how when you were a teenager, like how it's different or similar, especially
Yeah,
considering your background?
sure. So to this day, I feel like there's a lot of social media presence uh, versus compared to the times when I was a teen. Yes, we had our chatting online or coding and stuff like that, but it was not all about, how you were supposed to be, how you were presenting yourself, or hardly people used to know what's happening in your life. And that used to give you a lot of other things to focus on and, work things out. But yes, the struggles right now are totally different, where people are constantly, you get small drips of dopamine when you open Instagram and you do reels and stuff. But the positive side is where you learn things. You have easy access to information more than that in the past, and your circle and the worldly wise views have like increased. So that has a lot of stress to the current teenagers right now, and how they feel and process information is like pretty different from what we used to be involved back then.
And then on the topic of like comparing, is there any like coping mechanisms that you had when you were younger that is completely different than what you have now, or any that you took with you to adulthood?
Yeah, so when I used to be a huge people pleaser, I still am, but I'm struggling to, I'm just working, it's a work in progress thing. But that people pleaser is when like I felt like there'll be like a couple of friends of mine who used to come and ask me for help. And I used to feel validated because my parents used to go for a work and I'm a single child as well. So all I had was my friends. So I thought, okay, they need help from me, that means I'm important, so I provide value to them. And it went to a point where I helped them. I helped everyone so much that like I was a doormat. So I think that is something that I've not brought now, my coping to things, to understand people and relationships has become way better, and by setting boundaries. So that's something that I've learned. And yeah.
In what ways do you see the intersection of like biotechnology and mental health, particularly in the context of supporting teens with ADHD or other mental health challenges?
um I think biotechnology doesn't have uh, much to do with mental health per se. Probably they used to be, there is a space where you learn about genetic engineering and stuff like that. But that's just like a scratch on the surface. There's much more to biotech in terms of the other aspects of health, and how babies can be, in their, when they're about to be born, you can do genetic counseling to see if your kid is, has any mental health. But it's very difficult to detect. But it is, the research is still in process, I think. It has to do with that aspect. Yeah.
And then teens with ADHD are also known for like encountering challenges in academic settings. So, how do you think that educators and schools can better support students with ADHD or any mental health issue?
I would highly recommend someone to be a constant cheerleader for them, and giving them the best support is the way they teach something, understanding the kids, I mean, not kids, sorry, teens, style of learning. That's very important. Like, how you learn best, and that's exactly the support that you give, instead of having one size fits all. So my kind of education was one size fits all, where I struggled a lot. And it was very difficult for me to focus, to, process information, to understand. And yeah, I was not a really good kid at school in terms of education, academics. And then when it came to college, that's when I found this tool that was immensely helpful, is when I just had my dad sit next to me and I used to teach him. And that gave me a lot of confidence, saying that, oh, okay, I actually remember things this way, so that I can go and crack the exam. And that's when I started studying, and I was able to go till masters and finish it and have a professional life after that. So that journey was like really rocky, but it is doable if you find the niche and the place which works best for you. So I think that kind of support from school, I would highly recommend that, and not to, judge, or, have, consider that they lack something. It's just that everyone has a lot of strengths going on. You just use the best, and yeah.
Yeah. So, something that you kind of mentioned earlier, I know that there's a lot of cultural stereotypes, which is also something that I really liked that you started because I'm personally Nepali, so I'm also in that like South Asian like area, I've my roots are from there, so I understand that stereotype that's, not very talked about a lot. So, do you
Mhm.
think that as an Indian, do you believe that there are cultural factors that are important to think about considering when addressing mental health? And how do these factors intersect with your advocacy efforts?
Yeah, I think it does affect it a lot, because The culture that we are conditioned is way different than how it is in the western side of the part of the world. So that's the reason why I started a page, uh, which is close connecting to Indian culture. That I would say, like, mostly parents are not very um, like aware about mental health as how much we teens or adults are in this generation. So it's very difficult for them to come around and understand what's going on in our lives and how best they think they are giving us the best support. So it's the main part where you have to talk it to your parents, make them understand. But it's a very tricky situation when it comes to talking about ADHD and mental health, voicing out your views, because not all parents are going to be supportive, right? So um, that's when you find a support group or a place where you can find your safe space to be yourself and unmask yourself and navigate through this world. So it's another layer of difficult process of having that acceptance from your family and the society that you're living.
So I read an article somewhere and it said like basically here in the United States, a lot of parents need to start the conversation about mental health generally to their teenagers. But in like the Asian countries, a lot of teenagers have to have that conversation with their parents. So it's like the
Yeah.
opposite. So do you believe that that is true? And why do you think that Asian parents aren't aware about mental health as much as here in the United States?
Yeah, that's because their kind of living are totally different. Like their upbringing was, they had to go through a different kind of stress, like financial stress, and raising a child and stuff like that. So, and to provide us those comforts. So they were so involved in raising a family, going to work, just getting good grades and just focusing on the financial part and just the process. It's like a more logical approach. And if there's anything that's bothering you, it'll be fine in 2 days. It'll be fine. That's the word that they use. It's going to be okay. And not many people have been open, talking about all of this. So I am pretty sure that, so just to cut cross, give you a little background that ADHD is genetic. So I started, I recently learned that my mother also has ADHD, and I've been noticing all those signs and symptoms going on with her. I went and talked about it to her. She's like, I don't care. Why would I care? I'm already like 50 or 60 years old, and I have nothing else to lose. So I've been through all of this. So it's not a big deal. That's their line of coping. Um, so it's mostly like, if you say something, you speak up, the society will judge you and they'll put you down. But right now, that's not the case as teenagers. So that's the comparison I'm giving you with our parent generation and right now.
And then why do you think it is like important to be educated on the topic of general mental health and stress?
Um, so I would like to bring up an example. So we go to a doctor for a physical exam and we're not feeling well, and we get a medicine, and or if you have like an ailing, permanent health issue that you've been on constant medication, that is not an issue at all. For some parts of the world, I mean, in many Asian countries, I've seen that, oh, you're not supposed to talk about your physical health as well. But mental health is means mental to them, like where you go to a psychiatric hospital and you're put in that place, and people who go through all of that, that's what means mental health to them. And they just don't understand what the definition of mental health is. So I think seeing mental health is the same way it is physical health. You need to be mentally fine to do physical activities, physical stuff. So it's like a synergy, like yin yang. It has to go well together. And that's why I feel mental health is like really important, and that has an effect on physical health.
And what do you think is the biggest misconception about specifically mental health?
That the mental health means mental. That's the misconception, the famous misconception back in India, I would say. And I would also say that um, the inability to, perform well means that you're not fit or deemed fit to be in this place or society, as the world is very competitive.
And then with
So
that being said, what do you think is a specific misconception about ADHD?
ADHD is just not being about inattentive or being hyperactive. It's a lot more to do with emotions, processing emotions. There's a lot of things that goes under ADHD, and it's very unique to each person. So my ADHD symptoms may not align with the one who also has ADHD, but might have other symptoms which is more strongly presented in their life. So yeah, that's the misconception.
And then lastly, what advice would you give to someone out there that's struggling with their mental health or struggling with ADHD, or like some kind of message that you would like to leave with our Address Teen Stress audience?
I'm gonna give this. It's gonna be really cliche, but here's what I believe: like you are not alone. You've got this because you're here because living and surviving all of this is itself a huge win for you. And despite having to do all of that, you get to like wake up and go do your thing. Even if it's a bad day or a good day or whatever, you just come back and you wake up the next day. So that's something like the small things that you do are huge wins. So when we have to learn to appreciate small wins to in order to go up and get a huge win. So
Yeah, I love that so much. So, thank you so much once again, Varsha, for taking time out of your day to speak to me about ADHD and mental health and talking about your experience with ADHD. Thank you so much for helping us address teen stress.